think that there was a really perfect example with the Abba Voyage, because it wasn't a metaverse project. It wasn't deemed as Web3. It was something that a general audience could go and see and be a part of without a big kind of framework, you know, a tagline over the top, a very hype tagline. I think now, particularly in the space that we're working, which is fashion, there is a big like nosedive because of the debacle of the Web3 debacle and this kind of metaverse-orientated like flop with all the VCs that invested, and everyone's like kind of panicked, like, what is it? But I think actually it's about storytelling and the physical and digital, the IRL and URL working in unison, and that's kind of it. I think as soon as you start labeling things, it gets very difficult. And fashion particularly works on hype cycles. So as soon as something has been seen as...
hyped out.
Yeah, hyped out. It's like, oh, but we actually see technology as a tool, not a trend. So I think now we're in this perfect position and a timeline where people are building. And actually the solutions that are coming up now, they've had time to nest and work through. And it won't be under a metaverse-orientated hype, you know, label. Instead, it will just be eloquent work that sits between those two spaces as functionality. And I think that's why right now is really, really exciting.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is just that opportunity to really reinvigorate you know, crafts of different kinds. And I love the McGregor work. I kind of was following that a bit, so I'm glad you brought that up.
What did you do with Abba Voyage?
We did some of the mocap with Industrial Light and Magic, that were the team behind filming Abba's movement. And Wayne, I also know, and he did the choreography. And we worked with the team that helped to bring their motion to life. As part of that production. I've seen it many times. If we're talking about dance, which is also something that I'm a massive fan of, at Artificial Rome, we also did a big production with ballet dancers to celebrate the centenary of the Bauhaus, where we took the movement of ballet dancers into motion capture technology. I'll send it to you, you must see it. Which also tours as part of the physical show to bring this kind of next level experience, which merges the physical show with the virtual side, bringing people into this kind of production where you can be there physically, but then you also have this experience that takes it to a different dimension through virtual reality and a mixed reality interaction with the audience, being able to come in and experience the dance and the performance. I also love Wim Wenders' Pina, and seeing that for the first time was incredibly inspiring, and thinking about how technology will continue to evolve, and how artists and creators will continue to push it forwards.
Absolutely.
And will open up new ways of thinking about how we can use these tools and create incredible productions, much like the Abba one. I know it's coming down in November.
Everyone go.
And then Elvis is coming to town, apparently. So that will be the next big...
We'll have to check that
Everyone's
out.
like, why are we talking about Abba?
production. But it's so relevant, that project. And everybody in the industry was watching to see what would happen with that. It's sold out every single night, and it's moving to LA next. I'm sure it'll be at the Sphere at some point. But yeah, it's a brilliant project, and I love the work that Wayne does.
Can Web3, blockchain, etc., be used as a set of tools for positive change? And if you can give us some examples of communities or makers, thinkers, activists that you think are really paving the way. I'd love to hear from you, Suhair.
Well, I was actually thinking of my students. So I teach a slightly weird course in the Masters of Architecture program. So all of the students are already architects and engage with technology through the lens of decolonization, decarbonization. They sort of pick a thing and then they go for it. And there's been a lot of conversation around the idea of a protopia. What does it mean to have an opportunity to build new worlds? If a city was destroyed and you rebuilt it, what sorts of values would you bring to the table? And I think, on the hopeful side of it, there's an amazing opportunity for us to consider what it is that we want to build and incubate. It doesn't mean that we can't fail and experiment and flop. I love that word, flop, because that's what it's there for in many ways. On the other hand, it's very jarring for me because I've worked in tech my whole career, and you're used to iterating and deprecating and moving on. And I'm working with architects who want to build something around a particular set of values, which involve safety, obviously longevity, inclusivity, environmental sustainability, and it's very hard to find that sort of bridge between that way of doing and making. And so rather than give specifics, because I think for me, it's a moving space. I don't think anyone has got it right or wrong. I think it's all shifting, and it's very hard to define metaverse anyway. I think we need to really consider how we set values into the metaverse. Obviously, that's connected to AI as much, and if not more, technology that impacts all of us, all of the time, in multiple ways. But what it is that we want to build. And I think the creative community has actually a really powerful role to play, because as you're working with Nike or Chanel or whomever else, you're really considering where their corporate values flow into these spaces. And I think there's a new, tag to ESG, however we call it. Maybe it's M. What is it that we want to build around, and how do we make sure that we're setting those ethical standards at a leadership level, but equally they're evolving over time, because we're learning. Society is changing very rapidly. We live in a global moment, and we do hope that it will be more of an integrated space. I don't think we're going to all move to the metaverse. Equally, it's going to continue to evolve and be part of our lives, whether it's through gaming or architecture, design, shopping, fashion, however it manifests. And if we treat it as separate, then we better be building rules for it that are separate and that feel that they're right for all of us.
Do you have any builds, Leanne?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think particularly when it comes to what lies within the future, if you look at Gen Z and Gen Alpha, particularly when they're gaming or in those spaces, they understand about royalties. They understand about co-creation. So really, if we're looking at the fashion space particularly, the semantics of fashion have changed so much. And they're building assets that they're selling amongst their peer groups. And when these kind of brands come in and have a conversation or build in the space, they've got the kind of semantical exchange is a little bit off, because they arrive there. And I think that if you think about these young children that are building assets that are valuable to them, that are selling amongst themselves, they have the idea of royalties and co-creation. And then if you introduce physical fashion and understand that the blockchain is transparency, you can kind of see where the shift will occur when, within the future, that effectively it will be co-creation within gaming space that has physical backed assets. And I think if you speak to any of the fashion brands about co-creation, about the blockchain and transparency, their alarms go off, because transparency is a big issue in fashion production, because nobody wants to show up what's going on behind the scenes, because they're all scared of each other's successes or failures in the space, so everyone's working in silos. But I do think that the blockchain and the transparency and the government legislation, which is on the EU passports, digital passports for all products that exist, which is coming in soon, is something that will mean we'll have a really valuable use case when it comes to sustainability. And I think it will be that big semantic shift that's occurred with the youth that are creating will probably step into that quicker and easier than the big luxury brands. So I think we'll see a really big shift with those young minds leading and building quicker than the brands can, unless they kind of pull their fingers out a bit. But yeah,
I definitely agree with young people really kind of paving the way for how things should be done. Kadine, do you have any builds to add?
Yeah, I think I echo what both Suhair and Leanne are saying so eloquently. I also think that government and tech companies will have a big responsibility to address some of the big challenges that we're going to be facing due to artificial intelligence and job losses. And I'm going to be really open and frank about that, because I think with every industrial revolution, this happens, and we need to make sure that people don't get left behind. I'm part of an initiative with UCL that is going into primary schools and working with young people, getting them hands-on with technologies and digital tools, and thinking about digital skills and ways that we can upskill and make sure that young people are equipped with an insight around how these technologies are going to be applied in the world of work. And then I was also thinking about Professor Jeffrey Hinton's comment just this week leading up to the AI Summit in Korea, talking about the the benefit that will be needed to be allocated in terms of a universal credit, and making sure that these tech companies that do make billions, from unleashing these tools that will change the way we live in society, have a role and a responsibility in order to address, how we manage that for society and future jobs and future generations to come.